morning, good afternoon, and good evening around the world. So currently, I am from Nepal, and we are having evening time here in Nepal. Since 7 years, I am totally engaged with disability inclusive disaster risk reduction in Nepal. And recently, we have produced a book which especially focused on the which especially focus on the disaster and the disability. So I'm sharing my presentation. Uh, okay, okay. I hope the presentation is seen.
You can see it. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay. So I'm a person with disability, and I'm a member with as a World Disability Advocacy Group, as well as I am also member with a Rotary Club of Mount Everest in Nepal. And so I'm running a consulting company since 2015. My company name is Atulya Foundation Private Limited. It's the first kind of consulting company run by the person with disability. Actually, in Nepal, still people think that person with disability have only they have to run the DPO or OPDs, not a consulting firm or business model. So still, this is a very new thing in Nepal that a person with disability working as a consulting firm. So my journey towards disability inclusive disaster risk reduction it started in 2015. Before that, when I realized that my life is changed and I am not living a normal life in 2013, then I started to share some article related to disability in one online portal. Actually, my education is my background is journalism, so I started my work sharing my work in a local portal, and working that I realized that still the accessibility is one of the biggest challenge in the Nepal. So in 2014, I wrote an article. With that article, some people helped me to, and so we get some support, and we constructed the first accessible toilet in Kathmandu Valley, which is first private public partnership. This is the first thing that we are doing at that time, and we are planning to make our venue more accessible in some month or year. But unfortunately, in 2015, the biggest earthquake was there. So uh, then my path was changed. So I realized that in the time of the disaster or during the disaster, person with disability they faces a lot of problem. So as a Nepal is, as many of our member we know that we are living. Nepal has one of the highest mountain, Mount Everest here. So we have the very different geographical terrain. We have the high hill, mid hill, and lowland. So actually, people are living in the high hill, which is the base camp of Everest, Mount Everest, and people are living in the Tarai land, which is our flat belt, which is just border to the India. Every place they have the different kind of disaster, and we due to this harsh geographical condition, people it's very hard to rescue, give relief, and all things. So in 2015 earthquake, the earthquake was in the high hill and mid hill. So it was a devastating earthquake, and many people lost their life, and many people changed their life as now living with a person living with a disability. And at the time, I realized that we don't have much thing related to disability and disaster in Nepal. At that time, people were just giving relief. Many people got that relief, but people, those who cannot speak, those who cannot hear those all this thing, they are left behind because they don't have access to the place where they just they're sharing this all the thing. Relief material, because people are living with the very different places around the different mountains and hills. So it was a very hard time that people were, especially for person with disability, old age people, they are not getting the relief properly. So we work with some group at the time, and at the time I started supporting some group with during the disaster with some relief material and constructing accessible toilet inside the Kathmandu Valley. And at the time, I realized that we don't have any document where the government or local bodies can read that thing and help the person with disability during the disaster or pre or post disaster. We lack of this kind of document. So I was working on that thing, and in 2020, so with the help of USA, so I pitched one idea, and that idea just triggered in the right place, and we developed Nepal first disability inclusive get ready guidebook, which is in which we developed in the Nepalese language, which is our the basic language that we work in Nepal, and later we translated that in English too. And later we are very happy when in 2000 into the in the around in 2020 when we developed this book, people were the government, especially the government, they were not very positive with this book. But in 2022, they are very the scenario was changed because due to the corona and all things, and the Nepal government took the ownership of this book, which is the very new thing in our Nepalese history. That document that developed by the person with disability is owned by the Nepalese government Ministry of Home Affairs. This is a very new thing in Nepal, and so the minister, so there's a letter from the Ministry of Home Affairs. The Ministry of Home Affairs has thanked us, and they are very happy that this thing, this book was developed in Nepal. So that still the Nepalese government, they don't have the book related to the inclusion for person with disability during the disaster, and the government is very happy and they own this thing. So um, after that, so the book is very simple. So uh, previously, the many organizations want to develop this kind of book. They tried to work with a different group, but it was very hard. But one of the big thing when every around the world, when the whole world was hit by the corona, the people were thinking more about how to survive and how to make how to deal with the disaster. So in Nepal, we have Nepal is very disaster prone country. We have a lot of different kind of disaster uh, hit by every year, and because of that disaster, a lot of people changes their life, and they just are living with a disability due to the lack of proper medication and many things. Because I have already shared that our terrain is very different from a very hard terrain, so we have a very still in a many remote area. People have to walk for 3-4 days, in some part more than some in some part more than 5-6 days to reach the hospital, and at that place the hospital is also not fully equipped, so they have to carry airlifted through the helicopter, and in many time the weather is not favorable, so they have to stay in that place, which in with disability, or some people die in the way while transferring the patient. So, so this is the first book that the Nepal government and the different OPDs, we jointly developed this book. And for accessibility, this book is printed in Nepalese version, English version, and as well as Braille. So we are trying our best to make our whole document in accessible version. And for local people, we have developed this more inclusive way, so that people can easily understand this thing. So we have invested a lot to share this document in a different part of Nepal. So actually, the Nepalese people, we have the Nepalese language as our national language. So we have developed the different PSA related to this book, so that person with disability can use and the caretaker can use this book during the disaster. So we have developed this book, the PSA, and this is a very, as you have, it's the very, we have made this PSA very accessible. And one of the biggest thing is that this book is used by Nepal Red Cross. So Nepal Red Cross is using this book as their main resource book, source book, and they are using this book in their different project. So this is the one of the biggest thing that we are proud that one of the biggest organizations, the Nepal Red Cross, is the parallel, is like working as a parallel organization during the time of disaster. They are also referring this book as their main book. And so I am entering in this book. So in the first introduction, this book is so for all of the participants. So I am sharing this. This book is totally based on the scenario of the Nepal. So we have developed this book according to our situation. So every country has their different situation. So so in some part there might be war. In some part they have the worst scenario of a climate change, and some part they have the different kind of disaster. But in Nepal, the Nepal government has listed the 11 kind of different top disaster. So we work on that. So we with the all disability group. So the Nepal government has classified the 10 different kind of disability. So I think that you can just I'm just sharing that Nepal government has a classified the 10 different kind of disability, where physical disability, disability due to vision, disability related to the hearing, deaf, blind, disability related to the voice and speech, mental or psychosocial disability, intellectual disability, disability associated with the hemophilia, disability associated with the autism, and multiple disability. So according to the country, I have just gone to the different document, and many countries have different. They have classified the different kind of disability according to their environment, according to the demand of the people. So the Nepal government has classified the 10 kind of disability. Now they are also going in process of revising this thing. But now the current yeah, we have the only 10 kind of disability is classified by Nepal government. According to that classification and according to the severity, Nepal government has subdivided into 4 classes: the profound disability, severe disability, moderate disability, and mild disability. So working with the first all the 10 type of disability, we gone we did a different consultation with the different stakeholder, government, DPO, OPDs, and caretaker of the personal disability, government agency, and a different stakeholder. Then we so we consulted, and so what is our need? First we assist what is our basic need. So we have a different resource around the world. So every country, many countries have developed their own document related to disability and disaster. But so what is the main need of Nepal? So with the consultation, we came with a 4-step of emergency plan. So what we need when there's a disaster, or what we can plan in the pre-disaster situation or in post-disaster situation. So so with the consultation, we came up with a 4-step of emergency plan, where we according to the all group suggestion, we first they suggested to prepare of an emergency plan, personal disability and the caretaker. Second, they suggested that prepare the emergency and evacuation kit, what is what they need during the time of disaster, and prepare your home. So what is our surroundings? So what we need to make our surrounding good. So when the disaster hits, how can they can be safe and all things, and choose a reliable and accessible news for emergency information. So nowadays, many people have the access to the new technology, especially the mobile technology, media, different media, and so and people they used to many people are not, especially for the person with disability, still they don't can classify which is the right media or wrong media. So we have some share some guidance. So what we should choose during the time of disaster. So, with the prepare of emergency plan, so we have list out some important point so that how the person with disability and the caretaker can work in the time of disaster in the time of disaster. I learn about early warning system. So if in that part of Nepal, so where they are living, they have the early warning system or not. So they have the we have share some thing that they should check out the thing. So in the during the disaster, they can get help easily with the first responder. So sharing their information with the stakeholder, so local government, so that they can get help in the during the time of disaster, and make the list what they need during the disaster. In some places, they might have a sign language interpreter. They might not have a sign language interpreter. So what is their common language? So that they can interact with the local community. So they have to aware with this thing. And main thing is that they have to stay touch with those with hearing disability, especially deaf and hard of hearing. They have to touch with the sign language interpreter and those who can help them in the disaster. And it's also important that some of the disability group there now they are using the mobile technology, and they have to update with this thing and with the technology how they can share their current situation in the disaster. Actually, in 2015 Nepal Gorkha earthquake, we found that all the BTS tower were very jammed, so people were very unable to call their relatives during the disaster. So when there's a big disaster, so especially the Nepalese people, we have very less, uh, we don't text a lot. So we direct call the people. So we don't text a lot. So at that time during the disaster, all the channel might be jammed, so that the engagement, a lot of people try to call the people. So that should be uh, cut down. So we have shared them that use of this texting thing and all thing. So and the main thing is to during the disaster stay calm during the emergency, so that people can help them according to the priority. And second is the checklist. So this checklist is quite. So we took help with the spare handbook, which is the one of the biggest document for the emergency toolkit that is developed by spare. And so with that thing, we also different group uh, uh, suggested us what to add in that part, because the especially different disability people group, they don't have everything is not added in that spare handbook. So the disability group have shared their problem, what they got in the 2015 Nepal Gorkha earthquake. So they shared their problem. Especially the spinal cord, spinal injury, cord injury, paralyzed group, they suggested their need, and for hard of hearing, they suggested their requirement of the battery and the hearing aid, etc. So this is the basic thing that what the person with disability and the caretaker should have during the disaster time, or in pre-disaster time, so what they can work on that. So, and third is the prepare your home. So actually living in the developed country and living in the third world country, we have the different things. So so we don't have a in many places in the remote area as well as in urban area also, we don't have a uh, plan exact the right town planning system. Actually, the Nepal is a very old country in the also. So we have the very old cities which dated back to in the 1,000 year back. So still the many in the many urban area also, we don't have a right house mark. We don't have a right mark of the road and all things. So still the people, it's very hard to find right way in the time of disaster. If you just go to the Google Map, sometimes it is very hard to find the figure the right place. It's very complicated, and during disaster, it's might be quite complicated for those. And those people who are living in the single house, in many places, is very hard uh, um, to evacuate them, because in many places the house are still a very old type of house that is developed that is made by the mud, old bricks, and this wood. So so according to the scenario where they live, so those who live in high hill, they have to prepare their home around according to their environment. In mid hill, they have to prepare their home according to their environment, and in lowland, they have to develop. They have to prepare their house according to the surrounding, because uh, there might be an avalanche in the high hill. There might be a landslide in the mid hill, and there might be a flood in the lowland. And in lowland also, they have the snake bite and all the many things they might have. And the different group discussion, we came to know that the those people, many people have changed their life to the disability because of their house surrounding, because many people in Nepal are now losing their life in their bathroom. I don't so because that is due to this not making their bathroom accessible. Many people slept in their bathroom, and they just uh, lose their life, and they just change to disability. And in many places, and at last, we suggested them to choose the reliable media. In the time of emergency, people, they don't if they don't choose the reliable media, then they can lose the right information. And still, in our part, in many places, the people give the false news, so that people just they left their home, and some people go and just they rob the home, and also all many news are shared in the media. And we have the with that group, we have just listed the 5 major hazards of Nepal. One is the earthquake. So Nepal is in this seismic zone. So Mongolian plate and Indian plate, just they are just we are in between the China and India. So the Chinese plate and the Tibetan plate and the Indian plate, they just move sometime, and we have a lot of earthquake issues in Nepal. So the priority is earthquake. And in the time of earthquake, what we have to do and what we don't. So we have some do and don'ts during the earthquake time. So you can see, so we have some images, and those who have don't access with this thing. So I'm sharing that there's in the first image, there's a duck cover hold situation where the person with disability have a go-go bag. So it's we call it go-go bag. So where the emergency kit are placed in that bag, so that during the time of disaster or after the disaster, people can use that thing. In second image, a woman in the wheelchair with a head cover with a soft material, saving her head during the earthquake time. And second, the document was prepared in a pandemic time. So people suggested that the pandemic is another challenge that is coming in upcoming years. So we have suggestion about this epidemic. So what we have to do in the epidemic, and what not to do in the epidemic, and how we can be safe in the time during the epidemic time in the epidemic. And third is the fire. One of the another cause of the disaster in Nepal is the fire, because people are rely in the two cooking material. One is the LPG gas, which come in the cylinder, and other is wood that people used to burn and cook their meal. So that trigger a fire. So in many places, especially in the summer, people get we get a lot of incident of fire, as well as in the winter, when people they want to keep warm with the help of this LPG gas or electricity, or this wood material, so that it's just we get a lot of fire incident during the summer and in winter. And next is the flood. So Nepal is, I've always shared, we have a lot of mountains, hills. So every year we have a lot of flood. And also due to this climate change thing. So our Himalayas, the mountain are just the glacier are melting down. So every year the rate of the flood is getting more and more, and it causes a lot of flood and disaster in our place. And next is the landslide. So after this high rain, we get a lot of landslide. So many houses are just swept away by this landslide. So it's a very common disaster in Nepal. So we have listed this is 5 major disaster in Nepal. And so after what next after this disaster? So we have some plan for this emergency shelter, how to make this shelter more accessible, how to make this shelter more inclusive, so that people with disability also can go there and get their thing after this disaster. Because still I've already shared that during the disaster, when the government or the local government just they share their information, many people they don't have equipment. For example, many people they don't have even radio, even television, even mobile phone, so that they can get the information that this uh, um, there is a shelter, or there's a people are getting something after the disaster. So we have shared some plan for the emergency, and share this idea how to make this emergency shelter more accessible. So actually, in Nepal, still in many local level, still people are not aware of the disability. It's very very so still people need to be more sensitized about the disability thing. So we have so with this consultants, we have found that what is the main barriers and what is their solution. So we have figured out some list. This is the barrier and this is the solution. Because so I am sharing one simple example. In 2015 Nepal Gorkha earthquake, there was one shelter in Kathmandu Valley where the group of disability people were living there, and they lack of the proper toilet. So we gather with some engineer and develop one. So we plan to make one toilet at that place. So the Nepal Red Cross was helping them with the tent, and so we asked them with one tent, and just we tented with that toilet with that Nepal Red Cross tent. But next day, one of the staff of the Nepal Red Cross came, and they told that we can't use that tent in a toilet, because they don't have mandate to use that tent in the toilet area. So we have to so in first they took that tent away, but later we just we complained that thing, and they later realized that that toilet is also the another important thing for personal disability and for all people. So they gave back that tent again. That's one of the things. So many aid worker, they have the checklist. So they just look at the checklist and they just tick the thing what they have in the checklist. They only do that. But we have given some suggestion that they can just change their mind. They can just see the area. So how can they help personal disability during the disaster or after the disaster, when needed? So it's another example of barrier. Uh, if they don't able to receive the information promptly, so what they can do to give the information properly. The barrier might be they couldn't get information in promptly. So solution, we have given them some solution, so that that will help to the aid worker how they can help the person with disability, or the self-help group also can check that thing, or a caretaker of the person with disability also can read this thing and help them during the disaster or after the disaster. And next thing, one of the main challenge is the this accessibility issue, awareness, capacity building, and training. We've in Nepal, in many places, we don't have the accessible thing. So accessibility is one of the biggest challenge in Nepal still, because I have always said that our geographical situation is not so favorable for us. So it's very hard. So now the mindset is changing. As you can in the picture, the toilet is not accessible. So after this awareness and capacity building and other training, the people are changing the toilet in the accessible. They are making ramp to to help so that people independently use this restroom easily. And main thing is that important contact during the disaster, after the disaster, people they don't have the right contact information. So we have all the contact information of 7 province, the different hospital, police, and all things. And after developing this book, we are parallelly working with another thing. So we have also developed a mobile application named Bachao. This mobile application is SOS application, and which is only available in Nepal. So what I realized after 2015 Nepal Gorkha earthquake is that it is very hard to communicate during the disaster. So everything was jammed. So the solution for that is this app, where this app is currently in 2 platform, in Android and iOS platform. So this basically very simple app. This is the SOS app for all individual, and we have especially given focus to personal disability. This provides a simplified communication for individual in uncertain circumstances, and they can contact the first responder. So in many countries, we have the integrated system. For example, in US, they have the 911. In Australia, they have the 000. But in Nepal, we have the different number for different first responder. For example, for police, we have the 100. For ambulance, we have the 101. And for fire brigade, we have the 102. And many people, they don't know this number. So we have created this app which will which help them to contact to the first responder during their hard time. The app is very simple. The main thing is that when a person with disability, especially for deaf people who are in trouble, they can just send the SMS to the first responder with their current location, so that the first responder can track them and help them during the disaster. The layout of the app is very simple. When you install the app, this will take the information about your location. And as you can see that we have only 3 dial numbers there, 100, 101, and 102. And next is that in the time during the disaster, person with disability may have some confusion what to share with the first responder. So they might get confused. So we have some ready-made option. So if that is accident, or that is assault, or that is a robbery, or that is a fraud, or anything that that is what happened to them, just they can click on that thing and they can send that thing to the first responder. As you can see that when they just in third slide, we have the option of what they can report to the police. In fourth option, their location is tracked by that thing and copied by that this app. And in fifth, you can see that the real-time location is shared with the first responder. The thing is very simple. It's work according to the GPS location that is built up in your mobile phone. And with that, the first responder in Nepal, the response mechanism is that when we send this message to Nepal police, the Nepal police will copy that thing, and they send their responder in the location where the person with disability needed. So this is the thing that we are working on. And so to download this app, we have shared this QR code around Kathmandu Valley. So we are piloting this thing in Kathmandu Valley. So still we are working with a different group, so they can work, so they can download this thing and they can share their emergency situation with the first responder. And side by side, we are working more towards the disability inclusive disaster risk reduction. We have prepared the guidebook as well as the guideline, and we have shared with the Nepal government. And we do continuously do the different kind of drill and fire safety program inside the Kathmandu Valley as well as outside of the Kathmandu Valley. and we trained person with disability on different safety issues. So currently we are working this and sensitizing the different group and first responder as well as the caretaker related to this disaster. And recently, I'm very happy and proud to share that this our work was shortlisted in prestigious Sasaka Award in 2022, where our company was top listed in a fifth position. So, so we are though we are not in the top three, but we are very happy that we are in top five. So this is a proud moment for us, and thank you, everybody. So I welcome any questions.
Well, I thank you so much for what you've done. And congratulations on putting something this extensive together. It's really outstanding, the amount of work. I think you told me that actually, Pallav, if you could just take your screen share down, that would be good, I think.
Okay, sure. Okay.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you. So a couple of questions. I mean, I think you told me that there are 10 disability groups that worked on this project.
Yeah.
And then I'm interested in number one, how you coordinated all that. I don't know if you were the coordinator of that. But then also, what was the next step beyond that? How do now you go to a government and say, we need to implement this?
So in Nepal, actually, for person with disability, we have the different ministry, the Ministry of Women, Children, and Senior Citizen. Actually, still, person with disability, they have very less realization. Actually, I want to share one very interesting information. So while developing this app, we are doing consultation with the deaf group, and they share us with that what the police do, we don't know, because they never communicate with the police. There's a very new thing for us. So they didn't know what the role of the police in the society. So there's a very new thing, and still we have a lot of barriers. So as I have already shared in my this presentation. So if you go to the Women Children Ministry, they have the accessible thing. So you can just go to up in that ministry. You can talk with a different government representative, and there's a lift. But if you go to the first responder, in many police office, their office is not accessible. Even the ministry that work for the first responder is not accessible, and very less people get access on that ministry because it is a Ministry of Home Affairs. So so it's quite similar to Pentagon and other thing. So the people very have a list. They have a lot of restriction there. But in 2022, when we are just nominated in Saska Award, the Nepal government official of that ministry, we met them in the Bali, Indonesia, and they are quite interested with our work. And actually, the Nepal, every country has to report for Sendai framework. So what the one of the framework for 2015 to 2030, they have to report. So what they are doing to mitigate this disaster in their country. And Nepal, they don't have any document related to inclusion. So when they found that some group are working in Nepal to make this disaster thing more inclusive, so they are very interested to learn about that. We did a couple of meetings, and in September, the Nepal government want to take the ownership of the book. They formally wrote us a letter so that in 2022, in the ministerial conference, the Nepal government could they can have the document to show around the world that the Nepal is also working in the inclusion. So that's why they took the ownership of that thing, because again redeveloping this thing is one of the biggest tasks. So it's very hard to develop this document again. So that's why they adopted this thing. And one of the good things is that the Nepal government want to develop a manual so that they can share this to all the local government in the Nepal, in all province, so that in that part where we it's very hard for person with disability to do advocacy. Now it will be easy to send manual so that the local government can read that thing and help person during the disaster.
Okay, good. Pam, you have a question?
I have to just unmute.
Okay.
G'day from down under, from Australia. Hello, my beautiful friend Pallav. One of the things that I hosted Pallav in Australia, and it wasn't until Pallav was getting international notification, you know, like recognition, that the Nepal government was even interested, really. Because in Nepal and in other third world countries, people with disabilities are seen as lesser people. And so it wasn't until the Nepalese government found out that, you know, Pallav has been to Australia and has studied disaster risk reduction in Australia and was getting awards before the Nepalese government adopted this. It's also really interesting for me that Pallav has to really fight for recognition in Nepal, even though this is his concept and this is his app and, you know, his work. It has been a real struggle for him to continually develop this. I think the motivation for Pallav, if I can speak, is that it's been other countries that has encouraged Pallav to continue and with the app. And when he was in Melbourne, he was overwhelmingly welcomed into our emergency services, and I'm really interested in the pilot study of the app, because I believe the app can be used as a GPS when it's offline as well, so that rescuers can not only know where to dig if the buildings collapse, but also know where the majority of people were at that last, geolocation. And that a lot of people in Nepal have some sort of cheap mobile phone. So the app is really very impressive in terms of simple for people with disabilities to preload the information and to say, I'm a person that, or I'm with a person that is seeing impaired, so that they can then rescuers can know where to go. And I think one of the things that the Australian government is interested in, I know the Fijian government, and I know that in Syria right now, they would love to have this app to know where people were. I just think that there's so much that can be done with this for other countries. So that's just my 2 cents worth.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm thinking, and I'm going to direct this to Elliot, but the other Rotarians in the room.
Hello.
Hi, Pam. So, Elliot, I know that Rotary has a disaster relief in the foundation program for countries that have disasters, and very generous to Ukraine. But I'm wondering, the money goes out when there is a disaster. Maybe they should think about putting money towards something like this before a disaster happens, so that there's planning done to help. That may be even as valuable as the money going after a disaster, to try to prevent, people to be in bad situations, particularly people with disabilities. I don't know if Rotary ever thought about that when they have the disaster program.
Well, I think something like this could easily become part of a global grant. and that would be one way to approach funding this. As you said, the disaster response fund is really set up to provide assistance when something happens and to be able to get those funds out there rapidly. And the approval process for a disaster response grant and the use of the funds is different. It's really meant to be able to be deployed quickly, whereas something like this, which I think could easily be part of a global grant, would just simply need to go through the traditional approval processes. But I think it certainly qualifies as something that the type of thing that could be supported by a grant. It's sustainable. It has wide impact. It certainly meets the criteria of being part of at least one, if not more, areas of focus. So I don't see why we couldn't approach it like that.
All right, that's a possibility. Yeah, Pallav, have you ever approached your Rotary on this?
One of the big thing is that it's still one of the challenging thing that I found in our party is that the document, the thing that personal disability develop is not recognized. I would like to thank Pam for her support during my visit to Australia, as well as the Ken link with her. And at that time, I realized that the thing that I am doing is quite interesting to the people in the other part of the world. But still in Nepal, it's very hard to convince the government as well as our Rotary Club also. I have shared with them previously, but when they were not much interested with the work, so I did approach with a different organization. We have applied in a different grant. Recently, our idea is selected in one grant. So I think the team is coming Nepal next week to assist our work. And if they find that this thing workable, then they will just fund us on next stage. So I hope they will just they are coming to Nepal to assist our work. And so similarly, in the recent earthquake in the Turkey, so we have read the news that people were trapped in the house for a long period. So if we have the equipment, so we have the accessibility with this kind of app, they can just share their location in the real time, so that the first responder can rescue them in the time, in the certain time, because in the during disaster we understand that everybody is very hard to rescue everybody in this in the same time, but they do the priority and they do rescue earliest as soon as possible. So around the world, when I interacted in the Brisbane, in Melbourne, and in Sydney with different groups, I found that this kind of app can be more interesting in a different part of the world, so that they can just change their system. We can just replicate this app in their system, and so that they can use this thing when they need it. And so to work to make this app more workable, we have to work more with their first responder team also. So it's quite interesting to know how their first responder work. So I think that so I have shared my work with my Rotary Club, but I don't know. So they are waiting for another big award or one thing, so that after that, if some big organization help me to work more on this app, might be the other will again join hand. I think so, because in some in this trend, just I'm getting the same vibes. So that so when someone's help me, so if some organization help, then other organizations will come to help more. So still I'm not getting so support with my team. So so I have not decided. So our team is not working to help, because in my club is helping one school. So they are just they are adapted a school, and they are helping a lot with the school, because after this corona, due to the recession and all thing, they are not people are not interested to invest the money locally. So I think that so if we can apply for a global grant that can be a best option to elaborate this thing.
All right, so let's think about that and talk about that. And one thing maybe we can do through the fact that this club is a global club is to help bring global recognition to the work that you're doing, and that the need is for in the different countries to at least look at their program and see if they have included training for people with disabilities in disaster situations for the first responders. I'm not even sure the first responders are trained at all to work with people with disabilities.
I think, Ken, if I can just interrupt there, I think one of the things Nepal is doing is they're training their first responders to use sign language at least, because people come out and they're in shock, and the first responders are actually learning sign language just to quickly sign if somebody is unresponsive. I think that's happening in Nepal. The other thing that Pallav is too humble to say is that because of he has a disability through medical malpractice, he's not in Nepal, sadly, my beautiful Pallav, he has to struggle 50 times more to be recognized, which is just incredibly sad to me. And
Pam, you're gone mute.
oh, sorry, I think Lisa's got her hand up. Yeah.
Okay, you're okay now. All right.
A couple of things. First off, I just put my club's plan in the chat. All of the clubs in District 7020, District 7030, we do have a Caribbean disaster team, mainly because we get hit by hurricanes every single year. It's like, who's getting hit this year? We have earthquakes, we have tsunamis. So all the clubs, well, I want to say probably about 90% of the clubs in our district have their own club plan. I know here on St. Croix, we have 4 clubs. 3 of them use the one that I just sent, that I had developed. So, I just sent that as a model of a club plan as opposed to a national plan. We do each in the US, we have ITEMA, which is our territorial emergency response team here. But I had a couple of questions on the app, because it sounds perfect. My concern here is it only active during an emergency or a disaster, or is it active all the time? Because here you could see it being taken advantage of. Everybody would be using the app instead of calling 911. But I can see the purpose in using it during an emergency or a disaster, because as you mentioned, the phone lines are and the cell lines are overloaded. And one of the things we teach, and we just did an Empower Girls session last week, and I did a section on communication on using text messaging instead of phone calls during emergencies for the girls. So is it active all the time or just during emergencies and disasters?
So it's active all the time. So we are just planning to make this active app more interactive by sending different messages related to the disaster, related to climate change, related to the sexual and reproductive health, so that the people get engaged with this thing. So when they just download the app, and if the app doesn't send anything, or if they don't get chance to interact with the app, they will forget that thing. So we are trying our best to make this app more interactive. So during the disaster, they get when they just holding their mobile phone in their hand, they just they might think to use this app. So we are making this app more user-friendly and accessible as well as interactive, so that people would remember this app in many cases. Like for example, in our context, there are a lot of sexual and sexual violence cases. We have a lot of other cases, so that people just can just go and just complain this thing directly, because in Nepal still we don't have a communication with the first responder directly, because still people get afraid to reach out to the first responder, because we have a different system. Still the women are they don't have access to the mobile phone, as well as a person with disability. They don't have access to the mobile phones. And but nowadays the main thing that changes. So in some part, due to this, in some community or in school, all the students they might not have the mobile phone, but few people can have that mobile phone. So they can be a messenger in their team. So we are working, planning to work to make someone a leader in the community, so that he or she can help his or her community and help their friend.
You mentioned, sexual violence, and as you said, oftentimes a woman can't make a phone call, a woman or a man, because there's sexual violence against both. And being able to just click on an app would be faster and probably much easier. I want to tell you that, with your presentation today, I am going to suggest to my club that we meet with our Disability Rights Center here on St. Croix. I'm in the Virgin Islands, and have them review our plan and see what can be added, and then share it with the other clubs. I might do it as invite all 4 clubs to take part in that meeting.
Sure, thank you.
That's excellent. Very good. If we could get the message out to other clubs too, and other Rotaries around the world to do the same thing, that would be a step in the right direction. I always believe that the solutions to many problems all start with Rotary, and that Rotarians who are always willing to try to help are good, and are such a beautiful network, is a good place to start. And this is the place to start with this kind of thing, through the different Rotaries, and we can work on that. It would be good if we can get an article in the Rotary magazine about it. That would be super. Let's see what we can do on that. And I know Peter, who's from Canada, who does a talk show from their podcast, is going to interview Pallav on this subject, which is good, because I think if we can get more Rotaries to hear about it. Elliot, and I keep turning to Elliot because he's my district governor, or my future district governor. So one of the people wrote to me from Egypt, and she said she was just appointed the chair of the disaster, I forget the actual term, committee in her district. Does every district have that person? No.
No, it's an individual district effort. I'd love to see our district implement a disaster response plan and appoint someone to, run point whenever something happens, so that we know who to call, at least to coordinate. And I know a couple of other districts in our area have them, but it's not as widespread as you would think.
Here we have a regional team here. It's 70-20, 70-30, Florida, some of the Gulf states, so when we have our, for instance, the Haiti response team to the earthquake there, we have members from around the Caribbean on that. So our response, and we all have very strong district chairs and district teams that all come together for a Caribbean response.
Okay, that's excellent. God bless you for doing that. Just a note, Peter, Jimmy in the room you may want to connect with him. We'll get you connected because Jimmy works with chefs with disabilities. He may be a good interview for you for your podcast from Scotland there. So
Okay, great.
Any
We'll
other-
connect up, and I actually speak Scottish, so we'll be all right.
Oh, thank you. Actually, it's Chris Sanford is the founder of the Culinary Ability Awards, and he's a gold medalist in the Culinary Olympics. He and the Rolling Chef, which is a Norwegian chef in a wheelchair, they are part of the World Association of Chefs diversity group, where they've been challenged to roll out his program around all the chefs around the world. But we started to support his team in Scotland so that they could take a team to the Culinary Olympics. And I used them when we had a dinner in the city chambers. His team prepared all the dinners for the centenary of the Rotary Foundation. And, you know, there was a young deaf lad who was being signed. There were a couple of youngsters with autism, one with Down syndrome and other learning difficulties. And what a fabulous, fabulous plate, you know, set of food that they laid down. When they took part in the Culinary Olympics in February 2020, just before the pandemic, there were 29 teams in their category and they finished 4th. The first time.
Very good. Peter, Mark Wafer kind of introduced me to Jimmy, so we've been trying to connect with each other for a year, but we will. But I didn't know there was a Culinary Olympics, so that's interesting to know.
It's just like the ordinary Olympics, but when you see all the foods, you know, the plates, the cakes, the chocolate carving, the sugar carving, etc.
Wow.
Some of the work is phenomenal.
Wow, very cool. Any other questions before we sign off? I think we've got the start of something here, but we've got a lot of thinking and working ahead of us, Pallav, to help bring your message to as many people as we can. So we'll work on that.
One of the things, if I could add, is that currently I think Pallav is trying to develop this with no funding or his own funding, and it has ramifications for the world really, and I would really encourage some sort of global grant to be able to give him the opportunity to develop it further, but also to be able to adapt it, like in the Caribbean. I'm just thinking about you, Liz, in the Caribbean, to, you know, maybe pilot something that you could use that is also disability inclusive, and that uses the app, which is user friendly, to showcase what it actually can do. I love the fact that you're now going to go back and check with, you know, the disability groups and see how user friendly your plan is. I love that, you know, Pallav, part of what Pallav does is have a go pack for people, you know, to understand what they need, and also a plan. Because, you know, like Australia, my gosh, we have floods, we have fires, we, you know, we have just about everything here. And the thing is that nobody knows where everybody else is, and this app, I think, can have, you know, wide ramifications for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think about Turkey, and maybe some people could have been rescued in Turkey, not necessarily that you have your phone on you, but hopefully those who did, maybe they could find them better if you had this app. So, you know,
But Australia, with the recent floods we've had,
Right.
having people isolated, like in the Kimberleys at the moment, people are going to be isolated for over 30 days without food or water. They're going to have to do food drops. And these are people with disabilities that cannot leave their properties.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, it's quite ridiculous how hard it is to contact community members that have access to, mobile phone technology, but don't have the access to letting people know what they need.
Allison has put a link to a disaster strategies that she says does work in Central and South America.
Yeah, they're US based. I will say they're, I think one of the reasons they formed is in response to some of the larger disability orgs that say they're doing disaster work and aren't, and are very boots on the ground in, I think about hurricanes in the southern US and things, as well as partnering with other orgs around Ukraine.
Okay, well, that's something to look into. Maybe you want to check that out.
I would also say, and I think Pallav is aware of this, is that the World Institute on Disability has a focus on emergency preparedness disasters, as their new president came from that world, Marcy Roth. And I think we've had that discussion in the WhatsApp before. I can't remember with who.
Very cool.
Can I just add before you close, Ken, that I'm in Melbourne. If anybody's coming to the conference, the convention, the Rotary convention, I'm here. So if you need any advice or connections, please contact me.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jen. I will connect because I'm going to be there.
Yay! That's so exciting, Peter.
So look her up, Peter. Connected to yeah, very good.
Ken, I've put a link, not a link, I've put information about Catalyst 2030. It's young social entrepreneurs who are striving to implement the UN's 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Initially, they're based in India, but they've got folk from all over the world. I know that they've also got a disaster group, and they are an awful lot of tech people involved, from Holland and places like that. I'll see if I.
Oh, hello.
Yes.
On you go, David.
Oh, right. Sorry, I came to this late. I spoke to Pavel earlier, but the lady, and you don't know me at all, but Pavel does know me. The lady in Australia, can I make a suggestion? Look up, there's a lady called Elizabeth Wright. She's a former para-Olympian. She's based in Sydney now. She's a former, I think, gold or silver medalist for the swimming team. And she now works, I believe, for ABC News, or one of your main television stations, and she's an anchor. I know her when she was in England. Yeah, and David. She might be interested in any disability stories you have in terms of what you're doing. Now, Pavel has got my LinkedIn thingy, if that makes any sense. I'm about LinkedIn to pick up my son. Yeah, well, okay, he's linked to me on LinkedIn. So what I can do is connect you or tell you who Elizabeth Wright is. So from a disability, from a Rotary perspective, I can put you in touch with her, or at least direct you to where she is, because that's her bag. And if it sounds disjointed, it sort of is, but it isn't, because I know what I'm talking about.
Well, I get it totally.
There are other, sorry, I'm really sorry. The only reason why I've interrupted is because I've pulled over because I've got to pick up my son. There are a couple of other little bits and pieces that have popped up, but I'll drop them to whoever wants to know, kind of stuff. And now I'm going to be quiet. And if I sound like I'm completely scatty, it's possible.
Oh my gosh, David, can you just put your contact details in the chat, or will I get it from Pallav?
Yeah, I'm going to sound really bad because I'm on my mobile phone. It's a new phone. I'm not sure how to use it on Zoom. So I'm going to say, no, if Pallav can connect us, then I can follow this up with you.
Okay.
Is that all right or not?
Perfect. Perfect. Pallav, do you have David's contact details? You can shoot me.
You're muted.
You're on mute, my darling.
Oh, sure. Sure, I'll just check. So I would, so I'm quite confused. Let's see. Say if I have a David contact, then I can just link with both.
Brilliant. And I'm going to carry on going to pick up my son, who's otherwise I'm going to get in trouble, and another bit. I'll thank you so much, and I'm so sorry for interrupting.
Don't get in trouble, David. See ya.
Thank you, David. Okay, thank you.
Sure. Thank you, David. So I'll just contact you with Pam. So we'll just link in LinkedIn.
Sounds cool. There you go. There you go, Pam. There. So thank you, and thank you, Pam. You're like, I don't know what time in the morning or night you're at, but it's
1:20. It's easy.
very cool. I love it. Okay, thank you very much.